This is the ultimate mutators guide. I'm going to teach you guys everything you need to know. So mutators just came out on the PTR about 2-3 days ago. I've had a chance to play them. I'm going to teach you guys how they work. Everything that is relevant, everything that matters. So you don't get confused. This is not a guide for how to actually complete them, because that would be a whole different in-depth video. It's going to be, you know, mutation level by mutation level, week by week. They're going to rotate in every week. We'll get to that in a second, how that works. But as for how to actually do the dungeons, that'll be a whole different video idea. So let me start with the most basic thing. How do you know what dungeon is mutated? What are they? What's happening? So the way you can tell is you can see them pretty clearly on the map right here. It's right on the PTR, it is Dynasty Shipyard. And you can see the giant icon when you're zoomed out. So the way this works, once it goes to live, unless they change something, they have a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks to work on this. But right now in the PTR, it's different than how it's going to be on live. What they've said is that the way it'll work on live when it comes out is, say Dynasty Shipyard is the one. Well, now you can do Dynasty Shipyard for however long, a week, I mean, not however long, it's going to be a week. You have a week to get as high in the mutations as you can. The different tiers you can do is 1 through 10, okay? And we'll get to that in a second. But after a week has passed, Dynasty Shipyard mutations will close, and it'll move on to Genesis or Lazarus. And you'll see the same icon for those, well, one of those. It's one at a time. So maybe it'll be Shipyard, then maybe it'll be Genesis next, and then maybe it'll be Lazarus after that. You can see how long till it changed. I can't move my mouse on it because it goes away, but see this box here at the bottom? The UI is broken. I'm sure they'll probably fix it by the time it launches. But you can see it says 19 hours, 56 minutes. That's how long till this one goes away, the next one pops up. And then you can go do Genesis for a week. Then that one closes. And then the next one pops up. Then Lazarus. Do that for a week. Then it closes. Then we're back to Dynasty. It'll go in cycles like that for these three. And I assume it'll happen for the 4th dungeon whenever they finally add a 4th dungeon. Whenever that is. You know, maybe March, April, May, whenever the next dungeon comes out, next area and all that. Now there's a question of how do you get these orbs? Well, I'm looking at the 2 different ways to get the orbs. So it is different than the normal orbs. So what happens is you have to complete the dungeon one time. So say Dynasty. I have to do it one time normally. So the first time I'm just going to use a typical Dynasty tuning orb. But after that, now I can do mutations. And once I have mutations unlocked, I will need a mutated expedition tuning orb. So the mutated expedition tuning orbs, these will be universal. It can open any of the 3. Doesn't matter. If it's Genesis, Lazarus, whatever, if you're going to open a mutator, it just uses a mutated expedition tuning orb. That is it. But there's a big catch with this that you should be aware of. For crafting, you can only craft one every 7 days. So it's kind of time-gated to hell, which I don't agree with at all. Now, we'll see if it comes out to live like that. I'm just going to tell you right now, I think that's really stupid as hell. I think people should do all they want, but that's how it is. But there is one other way to get them, and I have not tested yet the cooldown on it. Maybe I'll just stop the recording and test it, but let's start with where it is. There's the Mutated Expedition Tuning Orb for 10,000 faction tokens and 1,000 coins. It also has a cooldown. Okay, so about that cooldown, physically impossible for me to find out because the New World devs never think through anything, sadly. Okay, so I need 10,000 faction tokens, except I can only carry 7,500. And I cannot get the side story quest unless I join the Marauders, which I'm already part of the Marauders, because on this one they decided to make it force you into a faction in the beginning. So I can't actually join a faction, which then blocks my main story progress, which makes it so I'm not actually in the faction as far as the story is concerned. So it never gives me the quest to upgrade my Marauder rank by going to Cutlass Keys and then going over to, I forget what it's called, the pirate place. So, sadly, I can't actually tell you guys what the cooldown is. I'm going to assume a week. I have no idea. There's physically no possible way to test it, sadly, on the PTR. But with that out of the way, let's move on to the next part of this. So once you get your mutated orb, you're going to want to go to whichever mutation is available if that's what you want to do. So in this case, it's Dynasty Shipyard, which I'm going to go there right now. So here I am at the entrance of Imperial Shipyard. And if you open the expedition menu, it'll look like this now. So the first one is regular. You'll have to do regular one time before you unlock the mutated. In order to open the regular, you will use the normal Dynasty Shipyard tuning orb that you normally use. But then once you complete it once, you instantly unlock normal 1. And then once you get high enough score on that, you get normal 2, normal 3, normal 4, all that. These are rewards you can get down here, and this is the weekly mutation of what will happen on this. So on normal, For this starter week on the PTR, there is Mutation Eternal. Enemies made of the following perks: Creeping. On death, enemies cast a spell, granting other enemies in the area Void Empower. And also Oblivion 1. Enemies apply Leech on hit, dealing Void damage and healing the enemy over time. Void Resist 1. Enemies have Void Absorption. Abyssal. Enemies deal percentage of all damage as Void damage. Paranoid 1. Enemies apply building stacks of Paranoia upon being hit at 4 stacks, deals Void damage. So basically, for this week, you're going to want Void damage absorption as much as possible and Void damage absorption potions. So the rewards are umbral shards, and it tells you the max that you can obtain. The amount you obtain is based on the rank that you get. So there's 3 ranks. There's bronze, silver, and gold. And it's based on factors like how fast you did the dungeon, did you complete all the objectives, did you not die about a certain number of times, that type of stuff. And if you do all of them, then you'll get a crazy score and you'll get gold or whatever, or you'll get silver or whatever. Gold will give 40, everything else gives less. On number 2, gold will give 60, everything else will give less. On a previous video, there was a chart at nwdb.whatever, so I can't remember the name of the URL, but check out that previous video. I'll try to remember to link that video in the description or something, I don't know. But yeah, there's a chart you can actually reference that'll have all those. But then also you'll get on these 5 expedition items, these possible rewards. I think you only get 1 if I remember this right. You only get 1, but these are the possible rewards you can get. You can get 1 of these, which would be Tempest Call, Flame Wake, Band of Ocean's Oath, Rapier of Forgotten Queens, Inner Peace, all this stuff. And I think this one goes to your expertise, so it rolls, 590 to 600 or whatever based on your expertise. Also, these are also possible rewards, and you can get an amulet or hollow armor shard or hollow weapon shard, which for this week, the ones that you get from this are the ones that do void damage. So they're crafting perks. Attacks deal additional 15% weapon damage with void, cooldown 2 seconds. I'm assuming if the mutation was fire, then this week a possible reward would be fire ones instead of void ones. So same thing for this. And then once you go to intermediate, they also have a second mutation for this week, which is Indomitable, a promotion. Enemies have the following buffs: Vampiric 2. Enemies heal a greater percentage of damage done. And Phalanx. Enemies cast a shield that blocks player projectiles. So basically just screws over ranged people. All 3 of these will be the same, although there are more possible rewards for each one. So intermediate, there's 7 possible items here. For number 4, there's 10 items you can get. And for 5, there are 17 different items that you can get. So that's all interesting stuff there. Then once you get to 6, it's hard. And at hard, there's another one, a curse. And it adds on Blowback Void. Using abilities deletes a global affliction. When the affliction is depleted, a zone is cast on all players, which silences players in this area. After the affliction expires, the zones detonate, dealing void damage to players in the radius. So that would be this week's one. And it's all about void again. So then also increase the number of items that you can obtain. There's tons of different stuff you can get. I'll go through them real fast. You can pause on any one of these if you really want to look at these things. So same kind of thing. And then 7, there's 24. Hard, there's 27. And then we get to Elite, and you'll notice this number changes when you get to Elite. And now it's Censored 2. And it does the same thing, but then you also get Truncated. When Silence Zones are active, all players lose natural mana regeneration. Standing in the Silence Zone grants a large amount of mana regeneration. So, weird mechanic here. Zones appear on the ground, or one zone appears on the ground. I guess one zone. And while that zone is up, you cannot cast spells if you run out of mana. I'm assuming maybe a potion will heal. I don't know if a potion will heal or not. Maybe a potion will heal. This is a natural mana regeneration, which if so, nobody cares. Just pop potions. But if it doesn't, I don't know what to see. It's just crazy hard to get to these on PTR. But if it's, if even potions don't work, then the idea is you stand in the zone to get mana, but make sure you don't stand in it when it explodes or you will die, basically. So that's a weird mechanic. And then you go to this one, same thing. And possible rewards. I can go through these real fast. You can pause any one of these you want to see, but I'm going to go through each one like this, and you can pause the video on any one of these that you want to take a look at if you are curious about all the possible rewards from Imperial or Dynasty Shipyard. Oh god, it's so bugged. There we go. If you're curious about one of the any of the rewards from Dynasty Shipyard at Mutator 10 on the PTR week 1. I think all the stuff relates to the Void buff. So it's all like that style. Like even this helmet, you see, has that look. I'm wondering if fire ones will look different when it's a fire week or fire rotation or whatever. So then also another thing you should know is that it uses a mutator orb every single time. I don't know if I said that early in the video or not. Use a mutator orb every single time. So if you do this and you fail and you get a new group and start over eventually, you'll have to use another mutator orb. So I'm not entirely sure how they plan for people to do multiple a day or something. It's not going to be physically possible. Although, then again, the faction shop, we don't know the cooldown because I physically cannot check it. It's actually physically impossible to check the faction shop cooldown. So unless that cooldown's like 12 hours or something, or 18 hours, there's just no way to do this. It's going to be crazy. You'll have to do the thing of buying, selling orbs left and right, as people hate doing, but you got to get used to. Now, as for those umbral shards, how do you upgrade with them? Well, in your inventory, when you click on a weapon, it'll show this option now. This will be a new option, upgrade. You can only do this to 600 gear score stuff, but who knows? Maybe they'll change it by the time this goes to live, but right now it's only 600 gear score stuff that can be upgraded. So you will click this upgrade button and it'll bring up a slider that looks like this. From here, you can drag this bar over to try to pick how many umbral shards you want to use at once to get how many gear score levels. So it uses, there's a chart, it uses 2 for the first one, then 4, then 6 or something, or 8, I mean, and then 15 or so, I don't remember. It goes something like that, The final level, 624, 625, uses 2,500 umbral shards, and the getting gold on tier 10 mutator gives, I think, 6,000 umbral shards, just to give you a reference of what the end game for all this is going to look like. So if you can do tier 10, you get everything to 615 real fast, all your gear, but getting that last, 10 points is going to be a grind. Although if you saw my other video, the upgrade is not insane. It's, what was 550 to 575? That's the same kind of scaling you're going to see. There's no special scaling, so 625 really doesn't add that many stats. So if you are worried that it's going to break the game, you got to do all this stuff or else you're going to fall behind, you're not really going to fall behind that bad. It's not going to be that bad if you're at 600 versus 625. So that's the gist of how all that works. So as for the loot and the difficulty. So the loot seemed to just follow expertise, which on the PTR we have 600 expertise, so I only found loot like level 593 to 600 or something along those lines. There's still some uncertainty. Do we get higher than 600 drops? To be determined. As for the difficulty, it's going to be basically they get a giant damage buff, giant HP buff just by going to mutators, but then after that it doesn't get that much harder with each mutator. So mutator 1 and mutator 2 felt pretty much like the exact same thing. Like maybe it probably had more damage. There's probably 5% or 10% more damage or whatever, but it just felt the same. I ran around, tested it, I got hit by stuff, felt about the same as mutator 1. So big thing though is you come in and you're just going to get hit hard. If you have 10,000 HP and light armor, you can expect to get one-tapped by heavy hitting attacks. And if you are a tank and have 20,000 HP and have heavy armor, you can expect to get like killed in 3 hits if you get hit by some crazy thing, or if you just eat the dragon from the whatever attacks in Imperial or whatever the shipyard. If you just eat the dragon, you could potentially die even with 20k HP maybe in mutators, especially at the higher ranks. But it's not so bad if you have a group who knows what they're doing. Like I said, I haven't tested to see if they can drop over 600 gear score, but my assumption is no. And the reason being, if you use an umbral shard on your gear, it instantly binds it to you. So you can't up the gear score higher than 600 and then sell it. So if that's how they want it to be, then I strongly doubt the enemies will drop gear score over 600. And if they do, it's going to be bind on pickup, not bind on equip. Now, it doesn't really matter if I test it right now because they're not done developing it. Any number of those things could change. Any of these numbers could change. Any of these values could change in the next 3 weeks before this goes to live. We're expecting it to drop around January 25th based off when the winter event ends. So that is what we're thinking, but we just don't know what the final version is exactly going to look like. So this is the ultimate guide of how it works, assuming that it comes through roughly the same as this. Some numbers could change from this guide in the future. They could change the cooldown timers. They could change, does it use an orb, does it not use an orb? They could change a bunch of different things. But all the basics, all the fundamentals are definitely going to come out about like that. It's going to have the void damage thing this week, or next week's going to be fire damage, or, whatever. It's going to have those type of things, the rewards. Oh, you get a chance at getting those shards that you can use as a craft mod to get a weapon that does 15% fire damage, 2-second cooldown, and all that type of stuff. The umbral shard ratios, those could change, but they'll be roughly like that. They'll probably go through live with those values, up to 40 on the first one, up to 60 on the second one. Using 2 for the 601, using 4 for 600, and on and on and on, 2,500 for 625. That'll probably go through probably like that. I doubt they'll change those numbers for that part. But now you know what to expect with mutators. That's what we're looking at. It looks pretty fun. It's nothing totally game-changing, but it's definitely fun. And if you like challenges, if you like going into those dungeons, and if you like dungeons anyway, you're going to have fun. If you like challenges, you're going to have fun. If you like the endgame grind, you're going to have fun. If you don't like any of those things, then I guess you're not going to have fun and, you know, whatever. I mean, you can also get umbral shards from crafting 600 gear score, so there is one way out of the whole situation if you want to get 625. But yeah, that's the situation with mutators. That is everything that I'm aware of with mutators. I think I included literally everything. I couldn't think of anything else to share with you guys. It's not a very complex system, actually. It's pretty simple. So if this video helped you, consider subscribing, though. I post New World news and guides and tips and tricks and stuff all the time. Also, if you want to follow me on other platforms, in the description of this video, if you hit the show more thing, I have my socials right there below the first paragraph. And I have a link to my Discord, where you can keep up with things and keep up with my YouTube better and keep up with me better. And then we also have my Twitch, which is where I stream other games that are not New World, just random stuff. And then we have my Patreon, where I post insider trading tips, mainly things that just I can't take to YouTube. Things that I post to YouTube and I get a 60% dislike ratio, even though it makes people rich and it doesn't make any sense. I just put them on the Patreon instead nowadays. So if that sounds interesting to you, you consider, I think it was $10 a month for that. But now you know what's going on, mutators. That'll give you an idea of how it all works. And it's, like I said, it's pretty simple. And that's what we're looking at PTR. Any of these things could change, but now you know how mutators work, generally speaking, in New World.